or like what grade you're in, how old you are, what sport you play, and how all those kind of factor in into how much you show fair play in sports. And so I put, according to the article, that fair play is defined as compliance, respect for officials and their decisions, and respect for other competitors. So basically that means, say, like, you want to be very respectful before the game, after the game, during the game to all players, abide by rules and things like that. And it's what keeps sports alive and nonviolent, because a lot of people in sports like kind of do it for like a monetary gain. And since money is involved, that could cause people to play non-fairly to make sure they gain said money. And right here on the third bullet point, it's like how I said, it's associated with generosity, humility, elegance, just basically being a fair player in whatever sport you're participating in. And the article also believes that it can only be accomplished through training. So it's not something that you can just naturally have. You have to be taught what's fair. You have to be taught certain rules to make sure you do everything the way you should. And it is also said that it starts with the youth. So you have to start teaching kids who play sports young. So when they grow up, they'll know all these rules and how to be fair in the sports they play, because they are the future of sports. They're going to be the spectators. They're going to be the players, coaches, referees, and things like that. So they have to learn that early on. It won't let me press space. And so, like I said earlier, professional sports have changed the way that they're played because monetary gain could cause people to be violent to make sure they win, because a lot of people only care about money, and individuals are also only really care about winning. So that could be where fair play is kind of lost in sports, because they may not be so nice and respectful to the other team because they're like forget y'all, I want to win. Versus this sport is supposed to be a fun experience for everybody involved. And also, where I said earlier, at the bottom it says that in the youth, the standards must be set because they are the future. They'll be the future athletes, trainers, sportsmen, referees, riders, spectators, and so on. And the study, basically what all the article was about, it examined the fair play behaviors of students involved in volleyball, basketball, football, and some individual sports, which it didn't name what they were. They were only called individual sports. And the population for the research, which pretty much means how many people there could have been in the study, was 2,631. But they only had a sample, which is a subset of the population, and that was only 397. And here, if you want to know, if you didn't already read it, it has the numbers for how many people came from each sport which were involved in the study. And the aim of the study was basically to explain how fair play behaviors were in these students who participated in school sports. So it pretty much started from minors, so just younger individuals, all the way up to the higher grades of high school. And they created a fair play scale as a measurement tool, and they used 4 subscales, which is pre-match fair play. So how respectful were they before a game, during match fair play, so how they were during the game, post-match, how they were after, and then general fair play, which is just an overall, how fair are these certain individuals in these certain groups. And they also categorize them by the sports age. So like I said, how old they are. So minors versus high school people and juniors and stuff like that. And the aim of the study was basically to show how fair play behaviors vary because of those factors, like sports age and the sport played. And also want to show how it differs outside of the sport as well. And so on the scale, it's like a questionnaire basically. So questions 1, 2, 3, 4 were pre-match. Questions 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, and 14 were during the match. Questions 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 measured the post-match fair play. Questions 8, 9, 10, 15, 16 measure general fair play in a match, and they used a computer to analyze the total scores. And this information right here at the bottom isn't necessarily pertinent to what I'm talking about, but that's just what they used. They used the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test, which is a statistics thing, the Kruskal-Wallis test for the within groups, Mann-Whitney for the between group stuff, and that's just pretty much how they computed it to get the numbers and results that they did. And so this picture, it is a little blurry because I had to blow it up. I'm gonna try to move this thing right here. So you can't probably really see it well, but it shows pre-match. They had the minors, the stars. I'm not sure what that was. It never told you in the article what category that was for the sports age. So I'm not sure about that. I would assume the higher grades of high school because they have juniors, but I'm not sure. But there's minors, stars, juniors B and A. So I'm assuming there were just a lot of juniors, so they had to split them up. It also did mention that. And so you had those numbers for pre-match, during, post, and in general. So like you can see just on pre-match for the minors, their mean rank for fair play for before a game was 176.28. And that was the lowest mean rank of all four groups for pre-match, and the highest was juniors B. So that pretty much is saying that before a game, minors showed the least bit of fair play versus juniors B, that group showed the most amount of fair play pre-match. And then the next few slides pretty much just discuss each little category and each group involved. So like I said, juniors B have the highest mean rank at that number, meaning that they display the most fair play based on the questionnaires and the answers they gave. Category stars and juniors A followed that with their numbers. And then category minors had the lowest average, which I just said, which just means they showed the least amount of fair play for that category. And then like this is just the results for the during match sports age. So juniors A were the highest this time. Minors were also the lowest again. For post match and for the sports age, the stars actually had the highest for this one. I'm still not sure which age range that is, but I assumed it was the highest of. And juniors B and minors were followed by that in the middle. And then juniors A were the lowest post match. And then in general, minors were the lowest and juniors A were the highest. Now, the results of all of them is that when the fair play behaviors of the participants, according to the sport age, are examined, it's revealed that the statistically significant difference is only in the fair play behaviors during the match. So if I were to go back to fair play during the match, that had the most difference between, say, the highest and the lowest. So junior A were like way up here, meaning they were very fair in the way they dictated themselves during the match. And then minors were very, very low, especially as to compared to juniors A. So that's pretty much what that means right there. Just that there was statistically significant difference between the two. And according to the mean rank, as seen in table 2, which is the table I just showed with all the data in it, those who have done sports for about 7 to 9 years have the highest mean rank. And also according to the table, the sports age and mean rank points show a linear increase. So it's pretty much saying there that the younger you are, the less fair you are in how you play. And as you age and progress, you get more fair, more respect, and you just learn more about fair play. And then here it's just the second table, or it's called table 3, but it's the second bit of data. And that's the same like categories, pre-match, during, post, in general. And the branches, instead of say age, they're now the sport. So there's volleyball, basketball, football, individual, and it's set up the exact same way. So for pre-match, football had the highest mean rank of 226, meaning they had the most fair play based on the questionnaire. Lowest was the individual at about 169. During match, football was also highest for that at 260, and the individual had the lowest for 120. So there's almost 140 number difference between those two. Post-match, volleyball had the highest, football had the lowest. So it's saying that football players, based on the population and sample that they used, had the lowest average of post-match fair play, which may not carry over to everybody because everyone's different, obviously. But for that group of people and the study and the data they collected, that's what's showing here. And then the general results for all this, football had the highest at 228, and the individual was the lowest. And so similar to the last one, the results of all together, the only significant difference was fair play based on the sports played was that the individual category was substantially lower than the other categories in pretty much all of them. So in this one, it was at the lowest at 167. The individual wasn't the lowest in this one, but it wasn't the highest. In this one, the individual was the lowest at 120, the one I mentioned, where it's very different from the one that's highest. And then pre-match, the individual was also the lowest. So that's pretty much saying that these individual sports don't care as much about fair play, say, as the people who are in these group sports like football, basketball, and volleyball, based on the study. And so I just took this bit of text out of the article. It said, when during match fair play behaviors are analyzed, it's revealed that the lowest mean rank is the minors category and the highest is the juniors A. And according to the results of the research, as the category rises in school sports, there is a significant difference in fair play behaviors. And I said that this may be because of the fact that the behaviors of the students who stay in the sports environment for a longer time strengthen and they mature as they grow. So that's the same as, like I said earlier, how pretty much as you age based on sports age, the more you're in the sports, the more you're around it and you learn and mature, like it says here, you just develop and express more fair play in the way you play the sport versus say somebody who doesn't know much about the sport or hasn't been in it longer, is just younger and immature. And also during the match, there was a significant difference in fair play behaviors as the age of sports grew. And it's pretty much how I mentioned here. So, and I took this from the article as well. It says the result is consistent with the findings of the previous variables. And this dude, FA, his study conducted in 2006, he found that the frequency of displaying that pre-match fair play behaviors of male students than female students, of second grade students than first grade students, and of those whose branch is football than those who are in volleyball. So it's pretty much saying that pre-match fair play for male students were higher than females. Second grade students showed more fair play than first grade, and the football branch showed more fair play than volleyball. And then in conclusion, this is just something that I thought based on the information from the article and what I already felt about fair play in school sports. I agree with the article and that fair play is very much based on the teaching and implementation of standards into athletes while they're young. So like if you don't teach young athletes and young people associated with sports what's fair, what's not, what are rules, morals, ethics, and everything like that, if you don't teach them that when they're young, as they age, they won't be able to build upon that. They won't have a foundation of fair play. So when they get to these ages where they've been in sports for say 7 to 10 years, they may not be as fair as somebody who learned it earlier on. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Ron. What are my questions?
I do not know how to stop sharing.
How do you stop sharing? There should be an option to stop sharing at the top of your screen.
I'm sorry?
There should be an option to stop sharing at the top of your screen.
It says pause share. Not, oh, never mind. It's right there in front of my face.
Yeah.